The risk of annihilation has never been so large as it is today. The scene of children and families who are starving to death cannot be justified in any way, because you're talking about blunt collective punishment. Stop the genocide. Stop the starvation. Do everything possible to stop this atrocity that is happening to our people.
We are honoured to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Mustafa.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
How are you finding London?
I didn't see much of London.
You've come to this city, which is the capital of the empire that 108 years ago signed away Palestine, land that it didn't own, land that didn't belong to it, to a people that were being oppressed in their own way by Europe. Does that stir up any emotions when you come and arrive in this city?
I don't know about emotions, but the other day I was interviewed by the BBC and they asked me why Stama and the British government should recognize Palestine. And in my response, I told them that they should recognize Palestine because it's by doing so they implement international law, and by doing so they implement United Nations resolutions. But more important, apart from any other country in the world that recognized or will recognize Palestine, Britain in particular has a responsibility of recognition, because this would be one small act to remedy the crime that was committed through Balfour Declaration, where Palestinians were deprived from their right to their homeland. And you know the rest of the story. So it will be at least some sort of an apology to the Palestinian people, to the horrible situation they were put in by the British colonialism.
Some people who are struggling for the rights of the Palestinians, struggling for liberation in their own way, look at the concept of recognizing a state of Palestine as a bit of a fig leaf. They're not sure that it actually means anything. What would you respond to them?
There are two sides of this issue. I mean, one side is that recognizing Palestine is important because it means recognition of the right of self-determination of Palestinians. And that means undermining and refusing the Israeli Knesset law, which was passed by the Israeli sort of called parliament, which says that the so-called nation-state law, which says that the right of self-determination on the land of historic Palestine is exclusive for Jewish people. Recognition of Palestine negates that kind of resolution. But also it negates the Israeli actions and laws that are passed to annex the West Bank. And it also negates what Israel is trying to do in terms of ethnic cleansing of the people from Gaza. So from that perspective, that it has a very important positive value. On the other hand, some countries use the issue of two-state solution and the recognition as an excuse to avoid their responsibility for doing more, especially regarding the war crimes that are committed against the Palestinian people today, and especially in the light of the genocide that is happening, which requires more than recognition of Palestinian states. It requires imposing sanctions on Israel. And here they use double standard because they don't want to meet that responsibility. But there is a third point where one has to be careful. For instance, in the case of French recognition, we have to make sure that it's not conditioned, that it's not sold as a part of a deal where there will be only recognition of Palestinian state without creation of a Palestinian state in exchange of normalization between major Arab countries and Israel. Or imposing on Palestinians certain political conditions like anybody who wants to run for Palestinian elections in the future have to accept the deals that were made with Israel, which were totally unfair, like Oslo Agreement, which Israel itself has already destroyed, and it's not there. So calling Palestinian struggle terrorism, accepting that kind of description, these are conditions that should never be accepted. And if anybody wants to recognize unconditionally, they're most welcome. If they don't want, if they try to impose on us conditions, we should not accept.
Now, the French said that they will recognize Palestine sometime later this year. Why don't they just recognize Palestine now?
Well, already 149 countries have recognized Palestine without France. So why are they doing it now? Because of two factors, I think. One factor is the French public pressure, like the public pressure worldwide, especially after the crimes have been exposed in Gaza. I think that by itself has made it very difficult for many countries to claim that they respect international law and not recognize Palestine. But I think also there is an additional factor, which is that some of these countries feel that Israel went far, far, far beyond any limits and violated every international law and violated every human rights. So in a way, that could be part of the reaction to this Israeli behavior.
Now, you're here because of the inaugural conference for the Global Alliance for Palestine. Could you tell us a bit about what that is?
This meeting that took place in London and decided to create a global coalition for Palestine is an effort to unify and coordinate the work of so many solidarity groups in support of Palestine in so many different countries worldwide. I think those who attended the conference are at least 65 organizations from 25 countries. And that is a major step forward. What I found in that meeting the whole day, that took a whole day, I found that it was a great venue for exchange of experience, a great venue for explaining how one can be creative in responding to oppressive measures against the solidarity movement. And it was a very good way of making the work of all of us more effective. And I hope it will succeed and it will be something very, very useful in the coming period.
Do you believe that this Global Alliance initiative will be different from previous attempts at creating some sort of alliance previously?
I don't know how much it will be different, but I think it complements other efforts, like the efforts that South Africa is leading to create a global anti-apartheid movement, like the very important work of BDS, Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions Campaign, which is a very important movement worldwide. And I think this new coalition would be also helpful to BDS because one of its main goals is to stand up and fight back all the oppressive measures that are taken against BDS activists. So in a way, it's a platform for coordination. It's a platform to learn from each other's experiences. It's a platform to create unified actions while maintaining the independence of each group and their own internal sovereignty. But also it would be a very good way of making the whole work more effective.
You have called for a day of hunger strike. Well, actually, we're filming on that day, the day of the hunger strike. Why do you think it's important for people to take part, and how has the response been?
Well, we called urgently for this day because of the starvation in Gaza, because of the deterioration of the situation, and we wanted something that would unify all Palestinians and all Arabs and all international supporters So the Palestinian non-governmental organization, which I am part of, called on behalf of Palestinian civil society on the whole world to participate on this Sunday in a hunger strike. Not only in solidarity with Gaza, but also as an expression of condemnation of the Israeli behavior. And I think the reaction was very nice. I mean, the fact that we informed the conference of the Global Alliance about what's happening met very positive reaction. So the call went everywhere. But of course, it's a short notice. We will see what happens. If the starvation continues, we might start to call for a day every week worldwide. We'll see.
Now, there's been a debate within Palestinians and those that support the Palestinians and their rights to self-determination and dignity about what stage we are in the Palestinian struggle right now. Some say that we are closer to annihilation of the Palestinian people than we have ever been. But others say that we are actually closer to liberation than we've ever been. Where would you say you stand on that debate?
I think both are correct. The risk of annihilation has never been so large as it is today. But the Palestinian steadfastness has never been so powerful as it is today. And the change in the world is unprecedented in terms of solidarity with Palestinians, and Israel is exposed now completely. This has never happened before. So you could say that it's both. The risk of annihilation is high, but our success in preventing it would definitely lead to much faster liberation.
You lived through South African apartheid, and you witnessed the change globally around the sentiment towards South African apartheid. How would you compare the current sentiment towards Israel to that change that occurred with South Africa?
I was impressed by the South African experience. I was particularly also impressed by what Gandhi did in South Africa, because most people don't know that Gandhi didn't start in India, but started in South Africa. And I made the effort actually of going to South Africa more than once to study specifically that expertise and that what happened. I went even to the place where Gandhi started his movement in South Africa. And ironically, I found out that, and that might be interesting for your audience, ironically, I found out that Gandhi started his whole movement by creating a print house, because he understood that the media is so powerful in mobilizing people and in bringing in attention to the struggle. And I think our case is different from South Africa. There are differences. South Africa never faced such a powerful movement like the Zionist movement. The apartheid regime was supported by Western colonial countries, but was never supported as much as Israel is supported by a country like the United States and even some other European governments. So we are different. We're facing a much stronger enemy. But the flow of the change that happened in South Africa, in my opinion, is happening now for Palestine. And I believed in that, and I wrote about it. Things always start to change at the level of the people. Then the people pressure the civil society organizations and the trade unions and the non-governmental organizations and the student movements, etc., etc. And then those together, the whole civil society starts to pressure the parliaments. And then the parliaments pressure the governments. And then you see the change. And the last to come always will be the United States of America, like it was with the case of South Africa. I remember once doing an interview a long time ago, after Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa, and after he became, after he became in a status where every American president wanted to have a photo opportunity with him. At that same time, Nelson Mandela was still on the terrorist list of the American Congress. And I remember being interviewed by the CNN, and they spoke about Palestinian terrorism. And I told them, listen, today you have Nelson Mandela and your presidents want to have a photo opportunity with him, and he's still on the terrorist list. This is how you treated him. After 6 months, they removed him from that list. But it's really interesting how things happen. So in my opinion, maybe we live now, if we compare our struggle to the South African struggle, we live somewhere in the 80s for the apartheid system, the anti-apartheid system. We're just about entering the stage where the mass popular organization worldwide is becoming so powerful in support of Palestine.
Have you seen that video, or there's a couple of videos, of the Egyptian activists in the Netherlands who chained the gates of the Egyptian embassy and then the Jordanian embassy?
No, I didn't see it.
Well, this video went viral a bit, and it sparked a lot of conversation about the role that Arab nations, leaders and people, have played in allowing, or rather not stopping, the genocide.
My stand on this have been repeated so many times since the beginning of this terrible genocide war on Gaza. I said from the very beginning, I don't call on the Arab countries to send armies to fight Israel or to liberate us from occupation. I know this is totally unrealistic. But we demand from the Arab countries at least to stop all the forms of normalization with Israel, those who have normalized with Israel. And I demanded that the 57 Arab and Muslim countries would create an international humanitarian convoy and challenge Israel. Imagine if a convoy on the 3rd or 4th month of the war came to the border with the flags of 57 countries and hopefully with the foreign ministers of each of these countries. Would Israel bombard it? Would it dare to do so? Unfortunately, all our calls went on deaf ears, and this did not happen. And now we see the price for that. I mean, the price is terrible starvation of the population of Gaza. Now they changed. Some Arab countries say they changed, but it's always Israel that decides what is allowed and what is not allowed. And dropping some aid from air is totally misleading and is not the way to go, because first of all, it causes, today they caused 11 injuries when they threw these things on people. Why would you need to throw from the planes and create even more chaos while you can just open the roads and allow thousands of trucks that are waiting? And what Gaza needs now is at least 1,000 trucks every day. Not 200, not 500, not 600, 1,000 trucks. If you want to alleviate the effect of starvation and the lack of medical material and the lack of treatment for people who are sick and the lack of clean water, you know that I am the president of the board of Palestinian Medical Relief Society. We have 80 medical teams working in Gaza, treating about 200,000 people every month. We have 2 major centers in Gaza City. Each of them sees between 300 and 500 people every day. And my colleagues report to us what's happening there. And 115,000 people got infectious hepatitis because of lack of clean water. We have now the risk of very serious outbreaks of very serious epidemics like poliomyelitis and diphtheria, because Israel is preventing vaccines from getting to Gaza already for almost 145 days. So we know the picture, and we know what is the effect of what's going on. And that's why there is such a big need to react to that and to exercise the utmost possible pressure.
We've seen a somewhat stronger reaction from the West because of what's going on in Gaza today. The images of children with their ribs being hugged by the skin, essentially, just completely malnourished. But, I mean, we've seen so many horrifying images over the last 650 odd days. Things that we could never have imagined to be seeing on our phones, etc. What is it about what we're seeing today that has moved onlookers in general and states in the West to start finally condemning?
All the previous images, including killing people in the most horrible way and conducting massacres in the most awful way, where always Israel had a leeway always to claim that they were bombarding these people because Hamas was hiding there, accusing Hamas of using people as humanitarian shield, which proved to be, of course, not only wrong, but a terrible it was proven to be an Israeli propaganda to justify the killing of civilians. But they always had the chance to use that excuse. The scene of children and families who are starving to death cannot be justified in any way, because you're talking about blunt collective punishment by preventing aid from getting to Gaza. Israel tried to use the idea that Hamas is stealing the aid and using it. But then Israel could not prove that. And you had people like the head of the World Food Program, who can in no way be identified as supportive of Palestinians. Miss McCain, who was the wife of McCain, who was a senator, American senator, and ran for president, as a matter of fact. So nobody could accuse her of being pro-Palestinian. And she came out and said, it's not true. There is no evidence that anybody is stealing, Hamas or any other resistance group is stealing the aid. So it was an Israeli false information. More than that, U.S. aid, imagine, U.S. aid teams did a thorough investigation. And they found out that it is totally untrue and totally baseless, the Israeli claims that the supplies are stolen by the resistance. And that was so clear. It was by U.S. aid, by a structure that belongs to the American government. So in my opinion, Israel could not this time play around this issue, and it became very clear that it is an act of collective punishment and that this starvation is man-made. It's not happening because there is no rain. It's not happening because a country is having fires or whatever. It's happening. It's not a natural catastrophe. It's happening because of a man-made, Israeli-made starvation and famine. I think these images are things that people could not escape. They couldn't find, even those who don't like Palestinians, those who are supportive of Israel, could not find an excuse of what was happening.
Now, whilst the West, I mean Europe, has changed its tone based on the images that they've seen and your analysis of that, it seems like the Trump administration has doubled down. Whilst a few weeks ago, Trump was saying that he was optimistic about getting towards some sort of deal, only yesterday he seemed to have pulled his negotiators and seemed to be backing Israel to the hilt to continue its war and finish off whether it's Hamas or the Palestinian people, who knows exactly what they aim to do. What do you think motivates this complete lack of humanity towards the Palestinians?
It's the fact that Trump and the United States are absolutely with Netanyahu and absolutely supportive of Israel. One more thing that is shocking, he keeps talking about the Israeli captives or prisoners. They are actually prisoners of war because they are all soldiers. not like what Piers Morgan claimed, that they are not soldiers. They are all soldiers. So they are prisoners of war. But he talks about the 20 prisoners of war, Israeli. He never mentions the 12,000 Palestinian prisoners, including no less than 260 children, including 3,650 Palestinians who are kept in Israeli jails without trial, without charges, without legal process. So they are also kidnapped. To me, they are kidnapped. He doesn't talk about about the thousands of Palestinian prisoners. He only talks about the 20 Israelis. So we have bias here, and it's very clear. And we have double standard, and we have lack of humanity, and we have complete and total support to Israel. But nevertheless, because of the size of the scandal, of the starvation of the people, even Trump had to also change his position again. And he sent Witkoff, his man, to re-establish negotiations again. So as you can see here, even when Trump is implementing exactly what Netanyahu is telling him, the Palestinian resilience and resistance forces him sometimes to retreat.
In terms of Palestinian resistance, there's many factions, and you have advocated multiple times for Palestinian unity. Do you think at this stage, with how things are in Gaza and in the West Bank, do you think unity is still possible?
I think it's important to say that the public, the Palestinian people, are united. It's not the problem of the people. The people are unified. They're united. They're all with Gaza. They're all with our right of resistance. They are all against, I think the vast majority now, in difference from what it was in 1993, are against Oslo Agreement and what it led to. The problem is at the level of the factions, not because of the people. But even there, we managed to get everybody to Beijing, and we signed an agreement that I personally drafted. And all the factions agreed on it, including Fatah and Hamas and others. And it says that there should be a national consensus government, and that should prepare for free democratic elections. It's a realistic plan. But unfortunately, up to now, the Palestinian Authority does not want to implement it. Although their representative signed it. So I think there is a political crisis at the level of certain political groups because of the continuation of the division. But I don't think the Palestinian people will accept to stay waiting for the factions to agree. Because as I told you, the public is unified. And those who continue to insist on division will be surpassed.
Some onlookers from the West and elsewhere look at Palestinians in the West Bank and they think maybe, why don't they strike? 1987, that's how the First Intifada became so successful, is through non-violent civil disobedience, such as striking. Why don't the Palestinians in the West Bank go ahead and do that?
They're trying, but you have to understand that West Bank has been in a status of new intifada since 2015. And it went on till 2021, of course, to 2021 when it flared up in Jerusalem, as you remember. And then it continued. When the military confrontation happened with Gaza, of course, the rules changed. I mean, you cannot really run something that I always organized and participated in, which are popular resistance. You can't demonstrate. They will shoot you immediately. The parameters have changed. And the public is with resistance, for sure. And there is a lot of steadfastness and heroic resistance to what the Israeli settlers are doing in so many communities. In a way, the popular mass resistance is being reborn now gradually. Just recently, I was in Sinjar, which was attacked by the Israeli illegal settlers. And I saw how the people of Sinjar have organized themselves so well without the need of any direction from anybody. And they have now local popular committees, local popular defense committees. Of course, they don't have guns like the settlers do, but by being organized, they're becoming a power. And they have excellent division of labor. The same happens in Beta, the same happens in Masafir Yatta, the same is happening everywhere. So in my opinion, the West Bank is going now through a major transformation where you will see in the coming period a great rise of the popular resistance in the same tradition of the first Intifada.
One question I've had in my mind, I wanted to ask to someone who has been involved in the struggle for liberation inside Palestine is, the Palestinian experience is not just contained within the Palestinian borders, also the exiles, right? And some of us, like myself and many thousands of others, were born in the West, and our first language isn't Arabic, and our identity is complicated, but we sometimes maybe wonder what you would think, or what people involved in the struggle would think is the role that we might best play from where we are and how we have grown up, etc. What would you say is our role?
Be part of the struggle by all means. What Palestinians in general are facing is the risk of annihilation. And that means you cannot throw the burden of struggle only on the people of Gaza or the West Bank. Every Palestinian, wherever they live, whether inside 1948 areas or in Jerusalem or West Bank or Gaza or in Europe or United States or Arab countries, every Palestinian is responsible. And every Palestinian must participate in the struggle in the best way. That's where we are different from Jewish people, where the level of organization is at maximum in their case. I mean, by that, the Jewish pro-Israeli people, because there are Jewish people who are supportive to Palestine. Of course, they are a minority, but they are important. So they are much better organized, and they use their energy. I mean, we're equal in numbers. If you count those who are inside and outside, we're the same number. But they are much more organized, their energy is much better used. And of course, they have resources that we don't have. But I think if we get all Palestinians organized in a unified struggle, we will make it. And that's where I think those who are, whether they live in Britain or anywhere else, they should participate in the struggle in the way they feel is suitable. But they cannot be outside the struggle, the Palestinian struggle. And the struggle has many forms, including media, including information about what's going on, including changing the British position. No Palestinian, wherever he lives or she lives, has the right not to be part of the Palestinian struggle.
What would you say is the most important thing that people should be talking about right now?
Stop the genocide. Stop the starvation. Do everything possible to stop this atrocity that is happening to our people. And demand unity.
Dr. Mustafa, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.